Hey, what it do, what it do, what it do? It's Husk out here, man. Tune in, get your popcorn ready, get your beverage of choice ready. About to listen to the Husk Out High School Sports Show podcast, man. Informative. You know it's going to be great coaching, great players, and great commentary. Sit back, enjoy it. Husk Out. Peace. TXHL. Turn those horns loose. What y'all know about that Longhorn speed, man? Sit back, guys. We got Coach Ray Gates, the defensive coordinator for Cedar Hill High School, coming up on this. This is part one, guys, where you will not want to miss. Hey, what it do, what it do, what it do? Hood Scout High School Sports Show. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Hood Scout High School Sports Show once again. Man, I think it's about my 11th episode. I got a great guest coming on. Before I want to introduce my guest, I want to say, guys, don't forget you can donate to the show. Independent media, man. You can donate via Cash App. It'll be greatly appreciated. Today, I'm talking to a defensive guru, a defensive coach. And like I always do, I like to let my guests introduce themselves. So, Coach, introduce yourself. Tell the people who you are and where you're from.
Well, thanks, first of all, for having me on the show, man. Big fan of what you're doing and the opportunity that you're giving guys to come on and kind of, talk about, where they started and a little bit about what they're doing in their careers. But, yeah, my name is Coach Gates. I'm the defensive coordinator at Cedar Hill High School. Hometown, little small town, Cedar, Texas. If you heard of them before, you know how football is down there. Those guys last night beat up on a powerhouse team, 55-7 in Refugio last night. So shout out to my hometown, Cedar Comanches, doing that work.
You said Comanche?
Comanches, yes, sir.
Now that's not. Now where is Cedar, Texas at, Coach?
Cedar is actually south of Austin, about an hour and 15 minutes south of Austin. Most people know us because of the beer Shiner Bach. So a small town, about 2,000 people. That's home, man. So
when did you first get involved in football? Like, when did you first fall in love with the game, if you will?
Man, for me, football, back then where I'm from, like I said, small town, we didn't have an opportunity to play a lot of the, youth leagues growing up. So it really wasn't until we got into middle school that we had an opportunity to actually play the game of football from an organized standpoint. But again, like I said, being from a small town, man, football is near and dear to my heart, and it's near and dear to the community that I was raised in. So Friday nights in my hometown, if you roll through Shiner around 7:30 and it's a home game or it's an away game, you can rob every house in the town because everybody can be at the stadium at Friday night. And so growing up as a kid, we always would play football on the practice field while the varsity game was going on. So from a very early age, 5 to 6 years old, you'll catch us down there playing football, and it's kind of where my love of the game came from.
So when did you organize? So let's take it up to high school. Did you start 8th grade or 9th grade, Coach? Like, when did you start?
7th grade.
7th grade. Mm-hmm. Okay, but I'm pretty sure you got like serious really in high school.
Yeah, man. And again, like I said, coming from a place where I come from, my high school, since my sophomore year in high school, we've made the playoffs every single year, and that's 1998. And so we've been in the playoffs every year. That tradition runs deep, but, being in China, having an opportunity to kind of start that run and to see it still going today, it was big for me back then because I knew that we could be special with what we had. And we actually, we started that thing off my senior year. We were the number one team in state. And,
what year was this, Coach?
2001. So the 2000 season, we were the number one team in state. I was the first team all-state running back in those days.
Chill out, Coach.
Yeah, man.
Chill out, Coach.
It's the truth, man. It's the truth. I used to tote the note, rush for over 2,000 yards in high school. And, you look at me today, you wouldn't know I played defense in college. So
I would have thought you would play defense back then. I would have thought you would have been a linebacker back then, like even in high school, but you said running back. So over 2,000 yards. How many touchdowns, Coach?
Over 40. I have to go back and look at the exact number, but I told that thing, bro. I told it that thing.
Bell cow. Wow. Yeah. You messed me up with that one, Coach. So I'm saying, well, you All-American, I'm assuming, right?
Well, in high school, like I said, I was first team all-state. We're a small school, back then we were, 2A, so you play both sides of the ball. So I did play linebacker too in high school. I played football, basketball, baseball, ran track, did it all, and that's kind of what you do when you're from a small town. You do it all, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to field a team.
Let me ask you this, Coach. Even back then, and obviously you was an integral part in that team's success, so the question can kind of apply perfectly. But what are some of those lessons that you learned back then? Like even as a player, like anything that you remember back then that kind of served you going forward?
Oh, of course, man. Number one, you think about the hard work, and everything that goes into it, the preparation that you put into it, on a personal level. For me, I can remember, preparing for, our senior season. One of the things that we did in my hometown is that, in the summertime, everybody worked. So from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, we all worked at a local wire industry in town. And so we would work from 8 to 5, get off from work, and then we would go straight to the weight room, and we put in, an hour and a half at the weight room. About 7:30, you're gonna have 20 cars at the park, playing basketball. We did that Monday through Thursday, and so we were always working, we were always involved, and everything we did, we tried to make sure that as a group we were always together. So for me, it was always the hard work and the camaraderie with the guys that we had an opportunity to go to school with and to play with.
Walk me through the senior year. Like walk me through that senior year. Walk me through, you selecting the college and then going to college, and kind of let's take it from there.
My senior year, man, it was an awesome year because, like I said, my hometown at that time, we had won one state championship. We played for two, and the prior championship that we won was in 1986. So we had maybe a 10-year drought of really just true success. We made the playoffs maybe 1 year, 2 years. From that time point, we kind of fell off the scene. And so my sophomore year, we started that run again. And so my senior year, we came in ranked, like I said, #1 in the state of Texas. We lost in the fourth round of the playoffs to a team out in East Texas, which was definitely devastating, thinking that you were going to have those state championship aspirations and an opportunity to win. So losing, that taught me a valuable lesson, and one of the things that I remember from that year is that, you can go through all the hard work like I just talked about, you can put in all that, but you're still not guaranteed that you're going to, get to that pinnacle, of the state game. You still have to go out and execute. You still have to play the game. And we lost to a team that was playing probably better ball than us, but wasn't a better team. And so it was always hard for me to go back, even to this day, to watch that, that last game I played in high school, because it still stings and it still sits with me, And so all those things, like I said, are very important, and it's vital to who I am today because I draw on all of those lessons, in high school. I use that every day, and I use it with my kids that we have at Cedar Hill.
So, like, walk me to college. So, I don't know how the college situation were. Was it a lot of schools? Was it a few schools, or what? What was that college like? And walk me through college life for you.
Man, it's crazy, right? I finished playing football, and walked out of that, went into the gym, played basketball. Was the defensive MVP of our district, our second team, our region in basketball. We made a run in basketball. Once that happened, went baseball, was first team our district baseball player.
Oh wow.
And so that was probably my first love was baseball.
Oh, for real?
Yeah,
now that's surprising. Let's talk about that. What you did on the diamond?
Oh man, I played first base. I played center field. And for me, excellence, I saw it at an early age because the reason why I really fell in love with baseball was because of my dad and my uncle. We had they had a big softball team, growing up. And so every weekend I was, on a softball field, with them. And when you walked into my house, we had a 5-tier trophy with over 100 trophies on it from just tournaments that they won from just growing up. And so for me, it was always baseball. That's what I was around, softball. And my dad, and my uncle are also high school officials. They still do it to this day. They've been officiating for about 40 years now, and so sports has always been huge for me, and I got an opportunity to see the competitiveness in my father and my uncle, or huge cornerstones in my life today, you know, and again, that propelled me in my sports life and my experiences that I were able to draw from. So baseball was big for me growing up. And then, like I said, I had an opportunity in middle school to start playing football. And, you know, that was kind of the big push, you know, and all the way through my senior year. So, yeah, baseball was real big growing up now.
And then college, like, did you walk me through the college experience for you? I'm assuming.
College, man, growing up, coming out of high school, you know, small town at that time, Shiner was starting to gain that traction, you know, of being a you know, competitive powerhouse football team, you know, restoring a little bit of tradition that we had in prior years. So my traction wasn't a lot. I didn't get up, you know, a whole bunch of people just recruiting, you know. So I verbally committed to Texas Southern out of high school. I went there and went on a recruiting trip and did the whole nine. You know, that's where I was going to go until about 2 or 3 weeks prior to training camp. I decided to go and visit a JUCO, and I went to Cisco. Didn't know anything about Cisco. A guy from a neighboring town that I knew that played ball was actually a sophomore there. And that's really how I had found out about Cisco, to be honest. And so I took a trip up there. Brought my, you know, recruiting tape. Back then, you know, we had the whole, you know, tape in, dub it yourself. So I had my tape with me, walked in the office, met Coach Nichols at the time, popped in my highlight tape, and he asked me, said, yeah, you know, we have 179 guys that are coming in for camp. He said, I like your film. He said, I got a lot of running backs. Would you be open to playing defense? And my answer was, Coach, I just want to play ball. And so I came in as the last signee on that class at Cisco, linebacker. And so, you know, fast forward, you know, to my first day, we had so many kids that we had, you know, 2 different practices. So half of the group practiced from 8 to 10, and then the second group practiced from 10 to 12. And then we went afternoon was like from 2 to 4 and like 4 to 6. So, you know, it was so many people, so much evaluation going on. I'm number literally like 16 on the depth chart. There were like 8 linebackers in the first group, 8 linebackers in the second group. I'm the last one to sign. So by the end of 2 days, I end up being right behind the All-American guy, you know, my freshman year going in, and I played, you know, every special teams. They found a way to get me on the field as a freshman my first year. So it was a huge, again, chip on my shoulder coming in from, you know, Shiner, where we, you know, won over 35, 40 games as a as a high school football player, coming from a place that established tradition. You know, losing wasn't an option, and it went back to that hard work. So I found myself, you know, at the end of those 2 weeks, being behind a guy who was an All-American, which propelled me to be, you know, a preseason All-American coming into my sophomore year there at Cisco.
Okay, now Cisco, now where is that at? I know that's not Central Texas, is it?
No, actually, Cisco is right off of I-20. So if you're going west of Abilene, it's about 45 minutes from Abilene. It's about 2 hours from the Metroplex.
Okay. Did you notice any difference from playing, like I say, playing high school ball? You was 2A, but you was a All-American type talent. Was there a big difference going to play college ball?
Yeah, it was. More so not the game of football in itself, because when you strip down football, you know, it's still football. It's blocking, tackling. It's all the things, the fundamentals that we stress every day. I remember my first college snap, you know, and I remember saying, wow, this is fast. You know, this is fast. Just the speed of the game was on a different level for me. And it was something that, again, I had to, you know, adjust to quick if I wanted to have an opportunity to be on the field. And so that was probably the biggest thing that stood out to me, was how many guys that we had that could move, that were, you know, bigger than me at that time. I was 6'1", 205, you know, just enamored with some of those guys and some of the things that they could do. But I also knew that I had to make sure that I had to make myself be noticed as well.
Okay, so coming into that, you say your sophomore year, That's the year you was behind the All-American, right?
Yes. Well, my
What
freshman
was
year
yeah,
was.
freshman year, yeah. But I'm saying going into your sophomore year, yeah.
Yeah.
What was your mindset? What type of work did you put in? What was your workouts like? Walk me through your mindset as a young man during during that off season trying to get better.
Yeah, I think for me, just, on all teams that I've been on, from, my early years of playing T-ball all the way up through baseball, football, basketball, whatever it was, just naturally I've always fit as a leader. I
Okay.
found myself always, in the background, being the one that's, trying to help coach, someone up who may have not, have gotten it, assist somebody. I just naturally feel that position. So for me, growing up in that type of environment, and then getting to college, again, it was just a natural progression because it's about what you do on the field. Guys, it's one thing to be able to talk, and to say all the right things, but when you can also back it up with your play, you also gain that type of credibility from those guys that are on the field with you. And so going into my sophomore year, it was about getting bigger, stronger, and faster. And so I went from being, 6'1", 205 to putting on about 15 to 17 pounds, and I was around 222 to 225 as a sophomore coming into that season. And so we started out that year, with me playing linebacker. We were 3 games into that my sophomore year, preseason All-American, third in the conference in tackles. And coach walks in one day and goes, "We're changing our defense." And
Wow.
I'm like, "Okay, cool. We're changing the defense. We're going to ask some guys to move positions." Okay, cool. They're going to ask some guys to move positions. I ain't worried about it. They're not asking me to move. Ray, we want you to go to defensive end. What? Defensive end? I'm preseason All-American linebacker. I'm third in the conference in tackles, and you want to move me to defensive end? That didn't go well with me, at all. And I was always the vocal guy. I was always the one that, did everything. And so that day of practice was probably my worst day of practice. And I remember vividly when coach was telling us about all the moves that we were going to make. He knew that it didn't sit well with me. And he basically said in front of everybody, I know he's upset, but we're going to do what's best for the team. And if he doesn't want to play this position, then he won't be playing. And so after practice, he called me in the office. He sat me down. We had a conversation, and it took about a day. And the next day I was over it. And so fast forward to the end of that season, I played 6-7 games at defensive end. I go on to have like 8.5, 9 sacks, go out and I essentially just ball, and the rest is pretty much history. And I had offers from, some of the, Alcorn, Lock Tech, schools like that. And I ended up going to Tarleton State from Cisco.
Okay. So you went to Tarleton State, and
Yes,
then let's take it from there.
All right. So I get to Tarleton State, they recruit me there. Should come in and fill a spot. So that's what I did from day one. I came in, I started, defensive end there, played 2 years there with 2-time all-conference player, for them, had a lot of success, had those dreams and aspirations just like everybody did, at the time of being able to get to the league. And I had an opportunity. My senior year, I get invited to play in the Cactus Bowl, which is the Division II North and South Senior Bowl. Year. And so 80 players are selected from 226 Division II schools in the nation. You fly down, you get to Kingsville, you practice in front of, 50, 60 NFL scouts for the entire week, and you go play in the game on that Saturday, and so I did that. It was a great experience for me. Again, at every level that you go up, it requires a different type of work, a different type of dedication. And so I knew I definitely had to, step up and work extra hard if I wanted to be able to make one of those teams. And so for me, unfortunately, I didn't get an opportunity to get into camp. And so it kind of switched my mode, and I was able to play professional arena ball for a couple of years. And so that, kind of gave me that opportunity to continue to play football after college.
At that time, like even away from ball, like what was some things you were into away from ball at that time? So you're in your early 20s. Was it just strictly ball, kind of like 24/7, or were there other things you were interested in at that time?
Yeah, man. When you're a college athlete, you get an opportunity to have a lot of different options. Everybody kind of knows you. You're a big man on campus. You have all those things. So it's hard to kind of get away from the vein of who you are because that's where you spend most of your time is on campus, right? And,
Hmm.
most of your time as a college athlete it is taken up with athletics, So a normal college day is waking up at 6:30, going to eat breakfast. All of your classes have to be somewhere between 8 o'clock to 12. Once you get done with that 1 o'clock, you're probably going to have some type of treatment to meetings to, 3 o'clock being on the field for practice. After
Hmm.
practice, 6 o'clock, you are in the weight room, and by the time you get home, it's 7:30, so most of your life in college as an athlete is taken up with athletics. So it's hard to get away from that vein of it.
Hmm.
But, hobbies wise, things that I've always liked to do outside of it, we love to fish, big fisherman. When I get an opportunity to get away, that's my safe haven, my little world of peace. And then also we kept it around sports. We played a lot of basketball and softball. So I try to do other things to stay active as well.
Okay. And then how was that arena experience for you? You think you said a few years, but what was that experience like for you? Because I'm sure it was a probably a different experience.
Yeah, it was a different experience in a lot of different ways. You go from playing, the game, for really the love of it, the purity of it as much as you can. When you're in high school, it's probably the most pure it'll ever be.
Yeah, true.
When you get to college, there's still a level of that, but you're also competing for a position. And you're also competing that, trying to put yourself in a position to get noticed where maybe you'll have an opportunity to go to another level and be in an elite group of people who can do it on Sundays. And then when you get an opportunity to play some form of professional football, then you also realize that, the purity of it goes out the window and it's all about the business of it. And so, being in, Arena 2 at that time, Arena was really, really big. Guys in Arena, 1, there was Arena 1, Arena 2. I played in the Arena 2 league, which was kind of the developmental league to get an opportunity to segue into Arena 1. It was a dog eat dog world, and it
Hmm.
was it was like being back in JUCO, to be honest with you,
Mm.
because I had to now realize that, hey, you're out here grinding because you're trying to get to another level, and so those experiences for me, in JUCO came into to play when I was playing arena football, because I understood there was a lot of the same parallels playing on those levels and what my intentions were. But nonetheless, I mean, it was a great experience, to be able to travel around, the United States, to go into different arenas, meet different people, and just to see, people coming out to support because they love the game of football,
Hmm.
and to have, you know, after a game to sign autographs, to do all those things, man, it was a different world, but you found a way to cherish those moments.
What's one thing maybe about arena ball that the average NFL fan, if you will, may not know about arena ball, or the average
Man,
person in general?
you play both ways, and so you play offensive position and then you play a defensive position, and they have you actually have to play for about, I think it's like 7.5 minutes before you really can be subbed out. So
Mm.
there are some weird rules about substitution, when you can and when you can't sub.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's kind of like that Iron Man football. And for me, again, I'm a small town product football player. That was what I did growing up. I played offense, I played defense. So, again, prior experiences we're talking about, it wasn't a shock to me. I could go and do that. I had the mentality for that, because it built me and it made me as a young high school player, and it allowed me to thrive on those same experiences in college all the way up into the arena ball.
So let's get into coaching. When did you know you were gonna get into coaching, and how did that all transpire?
Man, I always knew that I was going to be a coach. Coaching to me is a calling. It's something that that you're made to do. There's nothing else that I can imagine doing with my time, with my life, than having an opportunity to coach kids and to help them achieve their ultimate goals and dreams. And so I always knew that I was going to have that opportunity. That's what I wanted to do. The opportunity actually came when I was playing arena ball. So that first year, Don Carthel, he was our head coach for our arena football team. He also coached me in the senior Cactus Bowl game that I played in. So we had a connection there. And so when I went to play for him, about week 4, he ended up getting the head job at West Texas A&M University. So he leaves our team. He goes and he coaches, there at the university in Canyon, Texas, West Texas A&M. And so the very next year after that season, I go back and I play arena ball for, Amarillo Dusters there in Amarillo. And when that season is over, I go and I start coaching as a graduate assistant coach for Coach Carthel. And so that's where I had my opportunity to start. So I coached 3 years there at West Texas A&M University.
What are you coaching there? Like anything specific?
Yeah, I was coaching the defensive line. And so I was a D-line coach who assisted, man, I was really blessed because we were able to take a program that wasn't a winning program that had lost, for many years. And my time there, we won the conference championship. 2 out of 3 years, we made deep runs into the playoffs. We literally turned the program around like instantly. And so I had an opportunity to coach with 3 guys, and I'm grateful for. One who played for Coach Carthel, because Coach Carthel also, he coached at UTEP. He coached at, he was the head coach at Eastern New Mexico. He had a long, extensive, years of coaching. So Coach, I'm on blank now. I coached for Coach Kasurik, who played in the NFL. I played for coach for Coach King. He also played in the NFL. And then also one more guy I had an opportunity to coach with and also coached in the NFL. So all 3, were instrumental with me being a defensive lineman in college. Also being able to learn from all 3 of those guys. Coach Sinclair, I was going blank. Coach Sinclair was the first year that I was there, and he also played in the league. He led the league in sacks in 1998. And so I had an opportunity to learn a lot of football, defensive techniques from those guys that helped me transition into my coaching career in high school.
Wow. So, man, that was very interesting. What coaching nuggets would you say you learned at that time from being around those guys?
Man, again, being around those guys, you get an opportunity to see that, the ones that do it well, they're wired different. Their ability to coach the details, the things that normal people miss, the things that a normal coach would miss, they see. Things that you go like, wow, man, how did he see that? We were looking at the same thing, but he saw that. That always intrigued me, the detail, the process. How do you get to that point? And so Coach Carthel, he definitely had an act for it. His son at the time, that was his first opportunity to coach as a coordinator. So he came in, he coached the defense there for 7 or 8 years as a coordinator. He goes to Texas A&M Commerce, and within the span of 3 years, they win a national championship. And now Kobe, he's at, Stephen F. Austin. So I had an opportunity to work with those guys and to see those guys do it on a daily basis. So that helped shape me as a young coach. especially leaving the college scene, going into high school, where it really shocked me, and it rocked my world early in my coaching career based on what I was used to seeing, and so.
Talk about that, because I want to see what do you mean by that.
Oh man, so you're dealing with, on one hand, for me, being in college, you were dealing with guys who were motivated. Right? They wanted to be there. These guys, are super competitive. And so you're dealing with top talent, and for us as a Division II program, ranked top 5 in the nation, we're getting guys, that are Division I kickbacks. So one of the guys, I'll tell you a couple of guys, Colo Capanui, as a true freshman, he started at the University of South California, so he was at USC. Gets into some academic trouble. He's back home in Hawaii. We fly out to Hawaii. We get him essentially really off the beach. He comes in, he plays for us. This kid, 6'5", 265, running 4.5 40. Played tight end for us.
Wow.
We have Steve, a kid out of Florida. Was supposed to go to Nebraska, 6'3", running 4.5, legit 40. Those two kids, my first year there, they were in the NFL Combine, and unbelievable guys. And we had tons of guys like that. So we went from not being noticed to getting all the guys to having 25 NFL scouts at our practice. We had a kid that's from North Mesquite, Jamarcus Webb, went to the University of Texas. I called everywhere in the country looking for a shoe for him. He wore a size 22 shoe, and we couldn't find a cleat. 22. I called the
I've
University.
Never heard of that, Coach.
22. Literally, when I found the shoe got shipped to us. Everybody in the office took the cleat out of the box, put our foot into the cleat with our shoe on.
Wow.
But that guy, he's played at, I said North Mesquite. He played at Mesquite Horn, went to University of Texas. We got him out of JUCO. 2-a-days. We're doing one-on-ones. He's going against a kid that I had, a defensive end that got drafted by the Rams. Scout walks up to me for the Bears and goes, "Who is that kid right there?" I said, "That's Jamarcus Webb. He's 6'8", 300 pounds." He said he could start for us right now at left tackle for the Chicago Bears. The very next year, they drafted him in the 3rd round.
Yeah, hold on, Coach. That was a whole lot going on right there. So, how old are you at this time?
At that time, I'm 24, 25
that's young.
maybe. And so I'm still bouncing around a little bit in the arena world. I'm still playing and I'm coaching, in our off seasons because they weren't at the same time. So while we were in season, nothing was going on with arena. And then in the spring, in April, we started, arena football, and I was able to kind of bounce back and forth between the two worlds. And so while I'm seeing all this, I'm like, shoot, I still got something left in the tank. I'd be a great opportunity. I wish I could get down and, show them what I got, but we pumped out. I mean, our quarterback was drafted by the Rams, had a DN drafted by the Rams. We had a receiver that played with the Panthers. We put probably 10 to 15 guys in the league in a short span of time that I was there.
What man, and that's gonna, I think that even that experience, Coach, is gonna really serve you when you get a head coaching job one day. And that's something that's definitely gonna happen because wow, just hearing that alone lets you know your football knowledge. So those couple guys that ended up getting drafted, what was the big difference between them and the average other player?
Well, it's simple. Those guys understood the process. And a lot of guys get lost about the process. They look at the destination and they don't enjoy the journey. So those guys loved all the aspects about being a football player. They didn't love Saturday night or Saturday morning or Saturday evening. They also understood the importance of Monday through Thursday through Friday, the preparation that went into it. They didn't think that was less important than the actual game. And then when the season was over, those were the same guys that were the leaders in the locker room. Those were the same ones that competed in the weight room. Those were the same ones that refused to lose a sprint, And so you look at those guys and the talent that they had, and we had an offensive lineman from Florida. He was 6'8", 325. Dude could run a legit 4.8. I mean, he was like that dude. But the problem between him and those guys was he didn't love the process. When it was time to do all the things in the off season, he missed. It was either, he's faking an injury, trying to find a way out, not willing to go through. And I think that's probably the biggest thing for me is that, in my life and in my coaching life, I tell our kids all the time, life is not about going around, it's about going through. You have to go through something in order to gain that insight, that knowledge. And so with him trying to get around a lot of things, he missed out on his development. As talented as he was, had he did all the things that we asked him to do, he would have been one of those guys that got drafted. And the crazy thing about that was I could remember like it was yesterday. All those things happened for guys that were in his class. I remember he had a tryout. Right. And so he had about a month before his tryout. We go out to the field, we drive by, he's out there running sprints. He's now all of a sudden want to be in the weight room. He's trying to put 2 years of preparation in 2, 3, 4 weeks, and so that always stood out to me. Is that the guys that understand the process, the guys that embrace the process are the ones that get the results. You can be talented and you can go around it. You can go under, you can go over the top. You can find shortcuts. But the reality is at the end of the day, you're only hurting yourself because success, it costs what it costs. You'll never find success on a clearance rack. You'll never find success 50% off. You're going to have to pay for that success. So whatever it is, let's go grind, let's go get it. And at the end of the day, you'll be a better person because of it.
Yeah. What little tidbit or little interesting thing you learned about maybe the scouts or the game when you talk to a scout? Like anything at that time, anything a scout maybe said something that was like, to you at that time?
Oh man, a lot of conversations with those guys speaking, peeking their mind and trying to find out, what they're looking for. Each one is unique. They all have a style. They all have something that they're looking for. But I think probably the most important thing that stood out to me when I had an opportunity to talk to those guys is that they didn't care what level of ball you played on, right? And so for a lot of kids, even like today, they all want D1 offers. They want to go and shine. It's a lot of entitlement that comes with that for kids today. And so they think that the only way that they can make it is if they go D1. If they get a Division II offer, NAIA offer, D3 offer, they want to turn their nose up to it. Scout told me, Coach, a baller is a baller. It doesn't matter where they play. If you can ball, we will find you. And I think that probably stood out to me, and it helps me a lot today whenever I have to guide, our kids through the recruiting process, no matter what their goals or their aspirations are. Just remember that, number one, you need to be grateful for having this opportunity because there's a lot of people that don't get an opportunity to have a choice to go play football. And number two, if your goals are to be, an NFL player or whatever it might be, if you put in the work and if you're good enough, they're going to find you no matter where you are.
So at West Texas A&M as a coach, where do you go from there after being there, what, say 3 years, Coach?
Yes, sir. So I'm there for 3 years. I decided that, it's time, for me to do something where I can provide a little bit more for myself. So being in that world, to make it in that world, you have to really, really grind, right? And you're gonna have to sacrifice a lot. So Division II football, great tradition with a lot of schools, but the reality is their budget isn't the same as it is on the FCS or FBS level. And so as a graduate assistant, I'm making $10,000 a year eating out of the cafeteria. Like I'm sacrificed, you know. And so I decided that I was going to go into high school. I had a friend who was my roommate at the time, Lance Bruner. We both coached at West Texas A&M together. And
Shout out to Coach.
He was coaching at Palo Duro at the time, his old high school. And so I talked to him and said, hey, I'm going to probably do this, same thing at Tascosa, and so that's what I did. I jumped in, and like I said earlier, it shocked me like to the core. Probably the biggest thing I remember walking the halls, seeing kids walk the hall with headphones on, their MP3 players, listening to music. I was like, man, this is almost a different world, because when I was going to school, we didn't have MP3. When I was going to school, it was Walkman, and nobody was walking in the hallways with a Walkman, and you had it, but they it was just different. It was a different world, cell phones, all that stuff, and so having to acclimate to that, difference between the age gap, the maturity of the kids, it was tough for a moment, but at the end of the day, what I had gained, at my time at coaching at West Texas A&M gave me also a different insight, for those kids, because I could talk to them about what college coaches are looking for, what the things that they needed to do in order to be college ready. So it gave me another tool in my belt that, people that didn't take the same path didn't have.
So you say you was at, what school was you at, Coach?
Tascosa, Amarillo, Tascosa.
Okay. And what were you coaching at that time, and how long were you at that school?
So I was there for 4 years. I was a defensive line coach, so I coached the entire D line. I coached the D tackles and the D ends. And we took a program that didn't have a lot of success at all. And we were able to build it into what it is today. And that same staff is there for the most part, same head coach. The main core of that group is still there. And so that's been 15 years. And so Tascosa, they just lost, I want to say last week. 2 years ago, they were, a game away from state, but we went from literally not making the playoffs to finding ourselves consistently in the second round. So having an opportunity to build a program and to build tradition at a school that didn't have anything, that was one of my first jobs. It was essentially a rebuild.
How did that occur, Coach? How did y'all turn it around? What would you credit it to?
Well, I think it was, now what I know, it was about changing the culture, and you hear that a lot, and I've had an opportunity to coach at 4 schools. Cedar Hill is my 4th school. So I've had an opportunity to see schools that had established traditions, schools that didn't have any, schools that were somewhere in the middle, have always been okay, so I've had an opportunity to look at it from a lot of different vantage points. But going into Tascosa, it being the first job that I had, high school, a total rebuild, going out, I remember in 2 days going, man, we don't have many kids to bringing the numbers up in the program. It was a journey, but we had to change everything about what the perception was of the school. And so how do you do that? It takes time. You have to have coaches that are willing to go out and grind every day and to show kids what they have to do in order to be successful in the schemes that you're bringing. And then every little step of the way when you're building, you have to celebrate the small victories. It may be something like at Cedar Hill that you don't even think twice about even mentioning, but at a school that, doesn't have that prestige, and that school that you're trying to build, every small thing you want to make sure you celebrate it, because when you get the kids working hard, it's one thing to go through an off season, to work hard, make them grind, have them buy in. But if they're not having the success in the season, it's easy for them to also say, man, we're doing all this for what? To lose. And so you got to find ways to make sure that kids feel that they are loved, that they're important, and that they're doing exactly what you're asking and turning the culture. So